Mhm. Welcome to TBI Uncovered, the platform that allows traumatic brain survivors with brain injuries, the wheelchair community, the disabled community, caregivers, medical professionals, stroke survivors, and anyone such with brain injuries to share their resources, share their stories, and provide resources and tips to those impacted. Today we have a guest from all the way from Australia, and I'm so excited to talk with him. I'm going to bring him in now. So let's talk with him now. Hi, Fa, how are you?
Hey, very good, Erica. How are you?
Pretty good. So I'm
That's
sorry
good.
if you. I can't. All y'all from Australia, like, it's just so amazing how you can connect people all over the world through the
That's so
internet.
true. Yeah, it's great because obviously, especially these kind of opportunities,
Yeah.
podcasts and things like that, are mostly happening over in the UK and in the States. There's not a lot of this occurring here in Australia, so it's good to reconnect or connect with people overseas.
Yeah, it's so exciting, and it just goes to show the power of the internet, and I'm so excited about it. And so, what part of Australia are you in? What part of
So
Australia?
I'm in Sydney now.
Sydney. Okay.
Um, that's where my actual yeah. So I'm in, but I was actually treated after my accident in Brisbane,
Hmm.
and lived on the Gold Coast for a little while. So I guess I move around a lot.
That's all right. I love traveling, and I'm here for it all.
Yeah.
Life is very very interesting. Now, how it's like COVID, like a lot of cases over there, or how has COVID been over there?
I think Australia is a very regulated country. I say that because we we actually have it very much under control. In
Okay.
comparison to a lot of the world. Of course, what's happening in India right now is quite crazy in terms of numbers.
Hmm.
But here in Australia, because it is such a regulated country, the culture and society freaks out when one person in all of a big city like Sydney has
Hmm.
it. So right now we're wearing masks, but one person was infected. So it's got to the point where if we hear anything about COVID, kind of freak out. However, we're not sitting here and talking about what about all the people that are being infected by people that are getting types of cancer. It's like, oh,
Yeah, it's interesting. We take some of the simplest things for granted, and we don't magnify the things that are important. So it's very interesting how that happens. So could you share with us
as a
about your?
thought.
I'm sorry. Say it again. I'm not sure if you're talking or not. Are
Sorry.
you talking? Are you fine? So can you tell us about your share a little bit your story with us?
Yeah, no problem. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good, good. So I, sorry, in 2014, so 7 years ago, the lucky
Hmm.
year, I guess you could say, um, I I fell 3.5 stories or 15 meters off a building here in Sydney. Um, when that occurred, I hit an awning after one floor,
Hmm.
and however hit concrete at the end of it. And part of the issues like the femur that I mentioned,
Hmm.
I also broke my arm, and of course I did suffer an impact to my head, and a lot of fractures across my skull.
Hmm.
Now I think at the time, I obviously got really good care in hospital,
Mm-hmm.
but brain injury was not something they really mentioned.
Yeah.
I do apologize. That
Mm-hmm.
they really mentioned much about. They really focused on my. I guess all my issues were physical, just like the brain as well. But it was the one area where they didn't focus so much because it wasn't obvious, or it wasn't clear exactly how I would heal.
Yeah.
So they focused on my femur, they focused on my pelvis was broken, my skull itself,
Mm-hmm.
and everything in that regard was done well. And medicine here in Australia is very good. I went to a public hospital, so it was good. However, they simply did some scans. They said yes, he has a brain injury, and that was kind of it. Which I find very through the years of pain that I went through. I think the psychological changes were really difficult, and I didn't feel that there was proper structured support from the medical system.
So with us, so you said you didn't feel supported by the medical system. Did you ever receive like any type of therapy or like physical therapy, occupational speech? Was any of your other things that affected? Like could you walk? Could you walk and stuff and all that?
Yeah, so I lived in basically 4 weeks after my accident. I was
Okay.
actually flown to a Brisbane hospital because my family live up near in Brisbane and the Gold Coast.
Okay.
Now, I'm not actually from there. I was born kind of close to the Gold Coast, if anyone knows that city. But I was born on the side of New South Wales, which is our state.
Okay.
Um, and I only lived there for like 9 months. So my connection to the location of Brisbane and the Gold Coast wasn't very deep, other than my family had moved up there later in life.
Mm-hmm.
So after 4 weeks, I was flown to Brisbane, which was really good that they were able to do that. And then in Brisbane, I was in hospital for I think 2 more months, just over 2 months, and then I was released to stay at my dad's house. But I still did day hospital, which means, as you said, occupational therapy throughout. So including when I was in hospital, obviously, and
Okay.
speech therapy. So I actually had can't tell so much now unless you have spoken to me previously, but I had facial nerve damage.
Okay.
Um, so I really had to, like, I would literally just talk like this
Yeah.
before. Whereas now I can properly
Talk.
open my mouth and things like that through speech therapy. So yeah, so it was as I said, the medical care, because all of that was public. So it was really good having 3 months of day hospital after I was released, and
Yeah.
then 3 months within the hospital. So it sounds like care was amazing, but I felt that my goal to get out of the medical system that I had from the word go, basically after the accident. Um, I think I worked I think I made myself work so hard to try and get to that level where I could pass the neuropsychological test and get back to work. And then once I was, I guess, released back into society
Mm-hmm.
as normal, without any special, social services or any special care. For instance, I didn't have continuous speech therapy or occupational therapy because they felt that I had healed within 6 months, which is in Australia, if you do have a brain injury, they allow you to go back to work. They do a neuropsychological test,
Mm-hmm.
and they let you go back to work.
Mm-hmm.
6 months to 2 years is the usual time frame, and I went back the quickest possible, and that's when I actually went back to work, or I started to. Well, it took a while to find work because I was on contract when I had the accident,
Okay.
which was not great. So I didn't really have an employer to return to. But it took a while to find work, and then once I did find work, little challenges, little attention to detail challenges,
Yeah.
and memory challenges. All these issues occurred to me, and I was learning about them as they were happening in the workplace.
Oh.
And I wasn't technically disabled.
Yeah. No, interesting. And you brought up something because A brain injury is not something you can see. It's internal, so you never know how it's going, and it can affect you years later. It can happen anytime, and have different changes throughout the year. So things change all the time, and that's one thing about brain injuries, that is nothing, and you don't know when it's going to happen. It's so unpredictable. It's so unexpected. So it occurs. It does what it want to do. And so I think it's so interesting about it as well. So
Yeah.
would you say you've accepted your injury for what it is?
I think, to be honest, as I was mentioning that I was cleared to go back to work quite quickly,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think also throughout the healing process, I
Mm-hmm.
really aimed to be better and better and better in terms of like healing.
Yeah.
And I got during that period of 7 years. I received two postgraduate degrees. So I did a master's in urban planning
Well,
and a graduate certificate in like business.
well,
And I say all that not to say wow about me, but to say that education really helped me along the way. And I also was writing a book throughout the last 7 years as well that I'm editing now and trying to get a publisher for, and that also helped me heal. So, so I guess to be honest, at the worst stages, I would not say that I accepted it. It's more that I learnt more and more about brain injury, about other people, what they went through, and learned my own brain injury because a lot of my friends, they looked at me and they're like, "You're fine.
yeah.
You did amazing after your fall." I'm like, you don't really,
Yeah, you don't
uh,
feel.
yeah, you don't live my life day to day. You don't get fired
Yeah.
as much as I do. You don't get treated. Really, I think the saddest thing that I learned was the power of judgment,
Hmm.
and I think judgment is really important for something to focus on not doing, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm never judgmental to people at all, because I realize that you don't know the reason that they're acting a certain way, or what they're trying to achieve, or what they can't achieve, and they're trying to get there. And so I felt that during my recovery, because I wasn't technically disabled, which I was, but I technically wasn't. If you ask the Australian medical system, or if you ask social services in Australia, they'll say, "What? You didn't have an injury?" That's how I was treated. Um, and yet, the thing is that during that period of not being disabled, the amount of judgment, disgusting, to be honest. Some people, if you miss, because I work mostly in communications, which
Mm-hmm.
is I would not suggest it as a career choice if you have a brain injury. Um, and so there's lots of little like attention to detail issues, like prepositions or grammar. When you're writing documents. Where you make mistakes and you thought you reviewed it 5 times, but you still have made a tiny mistake.
Yeah.
So I guess that caused a lot of people very quickly to turn around and yell at you, scream at you, make you feel worthless, and then you think, could you not have just given me that document and said, "Oh, sorry, you missed this section,"
Yeah.
you know? And the times when I was honest about my accident, usually employers would find a way to get rid of me, which was really horrific to
That's
live.
crazy.
Um, they didn't. No one actually said to me, "Oh wow, that's such a big accident. You've been through so much. We'll support you." They went, "Okay." I mean, they didn't say it, but they said, "How can we slowly get rid of you?"
Yeah.
And that's actually what happened, and I was gotten rid of very quickly. But I think because I kept fighting, I guess, against the judgment, I did still get a lot of good work experience during that period. But it was not. I would not say it's enjoyable, or it was enjoyable.
Sure it wasn't. And it's and you want to work. You want to work. We're taught, we grow up to know you got to work and things like that. And then you find that you can't work. It's like, and then you try to work. It's like, well, I'm trying to work, and it just makes it hard, especially after an injury, because
Yeah,
they're not treated fairly. They say you are, but you're really not. And it's very sad, and it has to change. and it's very disgusting. It's very disgusting. Like it is.
I, I
Um,
think I think that's the thing that people don't. I guess the biggest challenge, I'll put it out there for me personally during brain injury recovery, was the emotional side. So whether that be my own emotional side or whether that be the emotional side of judgmental people
yeah,
around me, that was definitely the hardest obstacle because I passed a neuropsychological test. Technically, I my practical skills had returned well enough to go back to work.
yeah,
However, in the workplace, tiny, 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 tiny issues would occur,
yeah,
and people would yell, scream, abuse, and then you think, why are you acting that way? And I wasn't. I tried my best to act as calm as possible, but we all know that one of the biggest issues with brain injury is your quick frustration and anger. So I had to
yeah.
really try and numb that down and keep it internal, the same way brain injury was kept internal. But I really couldn't handle the amount of
It's hard.
judgmental abuse that I received.
It's very tough, and it's very sad because people don't understand. They don't understand. It's like, well, you can't even explain it. And yet you have to have been through it, or even have some empathy in your heart to actually, to be to sympathize or empathize with us that know we're going through. Because on the other end of it, you don't understand. Like it's so unfair, and it happens so much. It happens so much, and it's very sad. So what do you do on your anniversary date of your injury or whatever when you're diagnosed, or what do you do on that date?
Oh, what am I doing today?
No, no. What do you do on the date of your injury? Like, what do you do?
Oh, what do I do now?
Like on the anniversary, when anniversary comes around, like it's been
Uh,
out. Yeah. So what do you do on the date that you got?
I guess to be honest, in the first few years, I really tried to celebrate is not the right word, but really tried to mark it.
Yeah.
But as the years have passed, and also I've healed a lot.
Mhm.
I don't really, sorry, there's a little doggy in the park.
Mhm.
I don't really I didn't really celebrate it this year in respect to the fact that the date or actually I'll say one thing that's really hit me, and I wrote about it in my own blog last year, I think, was the power of time. And also humans have this real obsession with time, and I felt that that was actually a hindrance to my recovery because they would say, okay, 6 months you can be tested for neuropsychological test. Usually that'll happen 6 months to 2 years, and
Mhm.
then you will be recovered within this many years. Of which actually they didn't really give that exactly,
Mhm.
but everything was about exact years, exact time.
Mhm.
And I realized with brain injury, you start to think time is a construct. It's a human
Yeah.
idea, and so a lot of things, yes, of course, we have New Year's Eve, we have Christmas, but a lot of those things really are created not just by the Earth going around the sun. Sorry, yeah, that's right. The Earth going around the sun, or the sun turning. Sorry, not the sun. The Earth turning. My apologies. Um, but while that seasonal stuff occurs, we still think too much on the processes of nature that are fixed to time, and brain injury is something that isn't fixed to time. And that's one thing that I've learned. So I don't really celebrate the accident each year on the 30th of March when it occurred. I really, like, I mention it on like my social media pages and stuff, but I don't. It's not really a marker today because I don't actually see any particular change at that time. I even wrote in my book something about how I was. I guess I tried to indicate periods where I really felt like a jump in healing,
Mhm.
and I wrote down. I forget what I wrote, but I'll just make it up as I'm going. I think I wrote. I felt really good at a particular moment. I think I wrote 1 year, 8 months, 8 months, week 2 of the 8th month, and then like down to the seconds, and just saying like I think I did like 1.8 point, and then
Yeah.
goes on like repetitively, because that symbolized how the healing process actually occurs. It's not anything to do with true time. So there are a lot of people, of course, that I've met that have had a brain injury, and 15 years down the track, they are still suffering cognitive issues, and maybe the same attention to detail issues that I had, or memory issues. So it's not fixed, even to age. I think one thing that I'll just mention, that when I was tested in hospital for the neuropsychological test to return to work, they didn't know my psychological history. So what they did was, because I didn't really have any with a particular psychologist or anything, so what they did is they took my age and they took my education level, which, by the way, some people that are really well educated are not very intelligent, as we know, and they took those two, and then they decided what my score would be so I could return to work. Well, I don't think your intelligence, or your practical intelligence, I should say, because that's what the test looked at. Your practical intelligence has nothing to do with your age or your education level, I don't think, personally.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Well, he said it's tested. It's testing your. Is it testing your intellectual ability to comprehend things?
No, no, it was more to do with like some people may have had some of the tests where they test your ability to, for instance, with color, you're reading a word. So let's say red, green, yellow, but the actual word is written in a different color. So some people, which I didn't have that particular issue, but some people would look at a word in the color yellow, and it says green, and then you may be told, okay, read that in the color that it's actually represented,
Yeah.
and then you do the opposite of what you're actually supposed to do. So that kind of thing. Also memory, they read out lists and numbers,
Yeah.
and they try and match that up. And obviously, when I first woke up in hospital, I'm sure a lot of people get that first test where they ask you like 20 questions and you have to answer back. Who's the
President.
yeah, who's the I was actually gonna say, because in Australia it's who's the prime minister, but but our system is very similar to Canada,
Yeah.
and I got that wrong, because admittedly in Australia our prime minister changes so often that like a lot of prime ministers don't see a full term, so it's not like in the States. And yeah, different questions. Where are we? Like which city are we in? Things
Yeah.
like that. And that was quite difficult in the beginning, but then obviously within a month or so, that got a lot easier. And by the time I did the neuropsychological test, it was
It's
quite
fine.
straightforward.
Okay. That's
So that
interesting.
practical side.
Yeah. Well, I would say I think you should get tested, depending on what job it is. I mean, because some jobs require you to pay attention to detail, and if you cannot or not have the ability to fulfill the job description, then unfortunately you're not able to perform the job in its entirety. And so I would, it kind of sucks. If you could do, especially if you could do it before, but can't do it now. It's kind of like, well, it kind of, it kind of sucks a little bit. But so
Mm.
some jobs do require you to have attention to detail, to be able to communicate, to be able to do certain things. So, and at the brain injury, some of that stuff is altered.
Mm.
Um, so I get the testing part, but I mean it's I don't know. It's kind of
Yeah,
like up and down for me.
yeah. I think it's a bit fixed, like too fixed. I think, because I always say to people that I talk to that have a brain injury or that want to understand it more, I always say what helped me most was to follow my passions. So how I mentioned, I did 2 postgraduate degrees, I wrote a book. I didn't do that because, or I run currently, like I didn't do all those things because I just decided that I would do them and they sounded okay. that they were all interests that I had prior to the injury, and they're me essentially.
Yeah.
So lot of people that are going through really tough times, they might hear postgraduate degrees and things like that, and then they go, "But I love gardening." And the truth is that's great. So go and study more about the processes of gardening or vegetation, um, and maybe your suited job in the future is something within that space,
Yeah.
like having a nursery or something like that, because that's made for you. And that's one thing I realized after brain injury, definitely, that you follow your interests. Like a good example is I love geography. That's why I study the kind of stuff that I study. And in hospital, I remember when they were testing me on memory, and they told me a story about I think a woman, oh no, sorry, a man he was going to leave his house, and he was watching TV, and there was some news on, and uh, some information to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I only remembered half the story because I don't. I guess one of my passions is not to know what that particular man was doing, and then,
You
and
can't.
then he's just a man to me, um, and then they told another story, which spoke about Haiti, and spoke about particular protests in Haiti, and a revolution and all this kind of stuff. And I love, when I say geography, I love human geography. I'm not an environmentalist. I'm not a gardener, like I mentioned. Um, and so I remembered every single part of that Haiti story, and it was amazing that I remembered everything at the exact moment that that I forgot half of the story about the man watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I really think that your brain is it's tailored to your particular focuses, and that can also be detrimental sometimes for people going through brain injury, because if they previously have suffered from depression or anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that becomes the focus a bit too much,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's because it's difficult
Yeah.
for all of us,
Mm-hmm.
but that can be something that I don't think the medical profession picks up enough on. Um, I think that they still focus on how much bleeding there is, and not enough on the psychological changes and the emotional focuses of people as
Yeah.
well.
And that's what they're taught. Well, I don't say they're necessarily taught that, but they're gonna go out the book knowledge that they're presented. Because they're not inside the brain. They're not. And even with that, like, you could do so much research, but until you experience a brain injury for yourself, you can't really say the intricate details. You don't know, and we're all so different. Everyone's body is different. Everybody's body react differently, and we all heal differently. We're not. We can't be put in one box. Like, well, this cousin, this that person had that type of injury, they're gonna have this happen. You can't put us in a box like that.
No,
We're all
no.
different. You know.
And that's why I say definitely that difference shouldn't be something that we should look at with brain injury, particularly, or any mental illness, and
Yeah.
say, oh, okay, it's too difficult, it's too hard. But that's why I say, particularly with brain injury, because I've experienced it,
Yeah.
110% follow your interests,
It's
passions, whatever
right.
they may be. Become that gardener. Become an amazing gardener.
Yeah.
Become, I don't know, like, if you love dogs, which by the way, I really love dogs. That's probably why when a dog comes to me, I'm like, hello. And if you love dogs and you're physically okay, like
Yeah.
you're fit quite well, then why not become a dog walker? What an amazing job.
My
So
bad.
it's about. Sorry, I was just going to say it's about finding what works for you.
Absolutely, I definitely agree with that. And you give it your all. You have a passion for it. So I definitely agree with you. And I would say before my injury, I really I'm in the media field, and I'm still in the media field. That's what I enjoy. I'm on a different side of it though, because I want to do, I think, radio, but now I'm like more TV film ish. So that's where my passion lies. And so I definitely agree with you when you say you got to go for something that you enjoy. It's going to keep your attention, because our
Yeah.
attention span can be hindered. So I definitely agree with you with that. And doing what you love will keep your attention and keep your focus, and you'll be engaged with it. So I definitely agree
Yeah.
with you about that. And so, talk about your book. Obviously about your story. So, how long did it take you to write it? I'm not sure if you said it already, or
Yeah, it's so it was. I'll tell everyone that writing a book is a process. So don't think that it magically appeared. I didn't just like get out of hospital and it was ready to go.
oh,
It's been a process over the last 7 years, and even today. I'll give background. It focuses on the first 2 years of recovery.
okay,
One thing that a lot of people with a brain injury may have suffered from, or usually, at least from what I've gathered, is that you don't remember the actual, like, I don't remember falling off a building. So I don't actually have any traumatic memories of, hitting that concrete, which is really good, because I think I have a lot more peace because of that. But I know with some people, maybe they do remember parts of their accident, but I didn't remember the actual accident. And really, the book is not about the accident; it's about recovery.
okay,
And so it focuses on the first 2 years, and the whole process of what I'm trying to capture in the book is the first, like, probably 4 or 5 chapters are very much written in hospital, so they're very much kind of all over the place and thoughts, and trying to gather and understand what was happening around me.
right,
And then as the book progresses, it goes more into the detail of issues with work, learning as things were occurring. So when I say learning the healing process, that I wasn't really, um, ex- I wasn't given expectations for enough, I think. Um, and so a lot of that was happening throughout those 2 years. And there's a little bit of travel involved, because the moment I had any money, I disappeared from Australia and went overseas, because that was kind of like my escape.
okay,
And yeah, so there's quite a lot in there, but I'm still, right now I'm just doing a final edit, and I even now I find little things that I missed, little issues that issues is not the right word, but just things that I've overlooked over the last 7 years.
yeah,
That are small, but to get a publisher, they're big. So I'm just going through that process now. I'm on page. The book is 258 pages long, um, and I'm on page 161. And so we're moving forward to hopefully get a publisher.
yeah,
And yeah, I recently had some meetings with, like, we'll call it. It actually is called speed dating.
okay,
So what you do is an organization here in Australia allows you to have 3 minutes with a publisher or a publishing agent, and
different,
then you pitch. You have 3 minutes to tell your story, and then they ask a few questions, and then that's it. That's the end of the Zoom call. So I wasn't successful with two of them, but they gave good responses, in the sense that one of them particularly said, "Look, we're not looking for a memoir or a particular story like yours. However, your presentation was really good, and exactly like I guess it would work with us if we were looking for that type of book." So, like anything, I've realized trying to find a publisher is really, it's quite difficult, but you've got to remember that it's not entirely. Don't blame yourself, if you're looking for a publisher for a story, because work as hard as you can, but you can't change the fact that publishing, just like the music industry, just actors and movies, are all there to ensure that the product, or the entertainment process, whatever it might be, whether it be music or movies or books, they have to make sure that it's going to sell, and
it
sell in their agenda. It's a business, just like any business.
definitely
So,
is.
so yeah, so I am looking, because I have tried with some publishers previously, and this year I think it's time to start looking more towards self-publishing.
Okay,
Once I try a few more agents and publishers after this edit that I'm doing.
okay, sounds good. I wish you best. I wish you the best with that.
Thanks.
Best with that. Um, so I have a couple more questions. So you travel a lot. What's been your favorite place to travel?
Oh, that's impossible, actually. I think one thing I've loved about travel, and like when I was a little kid, I always, other kids had, I don't know, books on particular stories, and I had more than one atlas. I think I had like five at one stage, big atlases, around the house, like, get the updated version. So I always really loved the human geography side of the world, and um, because of that, as I've gotten older, thankfully, I've had the opportunity through education, as well as through using my education, as well as just as soon as I have some money, I go traveling. So I've traveled quite a lot. I've spent a lot of time in Latin America because I lived in during university. I lived in Argentina and Mexico.
Okay.
So that was really really interesting because not only are those two countries so different to Australia, but they're also in part Argentina's quite similar as well. But Argentina and Mexico are also very different from each other.
Mhm.
So it was really really interesting. And I've been to the States. I've only been to I say only, but really I mean going anywhere is amazing. But I've just been to the East Coast and the West Coast. I guess I've been to Washington D.C. Would you
Okay.
call that West Coast? Really?
East Coast.
Oh yeah. Okay, okay. As you can tell, I didn't study
Yeah.
well enough the natural geography.
Yeah. Okay. So, what other goals would you start to achieve?
What goals have I started to achieve?
What other goals would you still like to achieve that you haven't
Uh,
achieved?
yeah. I think getting the story out there has been really really my mission and my main goal, I guess, in life. When I say that, like I keep a blog online as well, which is different to my book, but it has little stories about brain injury, about travel,
Right.
and it's good because people, I guess, over the years, more and more people are reading my words, and my writing is getting better. So I guess just becoming more diverse and improve my own writing since I've gone through that healing process as well, which is really strangely my healing process has actually helped me with my writing, which is interesting because I think I had to focus so much on because I work in communication on becoming clearer, better, more succinct, more employable.
Yeah.
So I think improving in the writing space, and to be honest, probably travel. I really want to go to Mongolia.
Where, no, where is that exactly?
It's next. It's just north of China, in between China and Russia.
Okay.
So I want to go like trekking. And, yeah,
Okay. You love nature. You love nature.
yeah. I think I love big cities. I love nature as well. I love, I guess, all of it.
Well, for me, your 2.0, I call your second chance at life 2.0. And your
Mm,
2.0 chance seems like a lot of growth to me because you mentioned like improving your right. It's all about growth and improvement for you, I feel like. And so you talk about improvement, and growth is necessary for us to continue to evolve as people.
mm,
If we don't grow, we don't change. If we don't change, we just be stagnant and just exist. And I believe we all got to continue to grow, and we can't stay stagnant. And that's why I'm big on purpose.
mm.
Continue to live life. You still got a chance for yes, you're still living. You still got breath in your body. So why not do something with it? So I think we
Yeah,
all to still continue to progress and do, like you said, what we enjoy doing. Like pursue your dreams, pursue your passions. Like you being a second chance for a reason. So that's my perspective. So what advice would you give someone in your situation as a survivor or somebody just like new to this whole world, like
mm.
don't know nothing about brain injury? They're just like, I don't know what to do. Like, what should I do? Like, I don't know. What
Yeah.
is
I definitely think it's twofold. I think in the very beginning, you can't follow your passions because you've just woken up in hospital and you're like, what is this? So I think the first step is to educate yourself beyond what the doctors tell you.
okay?
Um, so definitely education is so important because it helps you realize uh, the extent of issues that are related to brain injury, but also the possibilities. So the
Mm-hmm.
amazing things you can do from day one, which is really important. So you learn the diversity, and then you feel your own limitations or your own possibilities a lot better. So education is first,
Okay.
and then as you heal, follow your passions. I keep saying it, but it's true.
I
Um,
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. I definitely do.
mm,
Because makes you come alive. You know, you're alive again. Like, and again, you're getting a second chance for a reason. So why not do something you enjoy? You got a second chance to live. So why not enjoy living and enjoy what you do while you're living? So yeah.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And this can be anything. Like I had one person mention to me once that they had a brain injury from boxing, and they said, and then I think it was a relative I was speaking to. This was a few years ago, and I said, follow, get him to follow his passions. And
Okay.
then the relative said, yeah, but he loves boxing. I'm like, well, that's related to everything, like event management. It's about
Mm,
organizing sports. It's
that's true.
about, there's a whole range of ideas. So it's, yeah, it's not about closing yourself off, because there's always every single passion. Like my passion, kind of, I guess you would call it human geography, that's turned into writing. And it's, you can develop that in so many different ways that you can enjoy. Um, so the world is diverse. Follow diversity, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely learned a lot from you, and I've enjoyed this interview. So what would you like people to follow you at? Do you have
Yes,
social media information?
yeah. So as I said, I have a blog. That blog, you can access that through. I have like a Facebook page,
Okay.
um, and I also have an Instagram. Facebook is a lot better if you're interested in reading,
Okay.
because obviously Instagram is mostly focused, like, on of course on images,
Yeah.
which is still good. I take photos of many things, but if you want to look at more of my writing, definitely the blog and Facebook would be best.
What's your
And
names
yeah,
on your names on the social media?
yeah. So Paul McMahon, so
Okay.
McMahon, or Paul McMahon in America, because my last name is pronounced differently in every country, and Paul McMahon, author. So that's my Facebook page. Then Instagram is Paul ___ McMahon or McMahon.
Okay. I'll be trying to include that in the description. Well,
Cool.
thank you for your time, and it was fun.
Excellent. Yes, thank you so much. And it's always
It
good to share your story, to hope
really
that other people, yeah, get something from it.
really is. I thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Have,
Thanks.
have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was it for TBI Uncovered. I'll see you later.